Those of us with dogs in our lives know that one of the great crimes of all in dog code of conduct is to leave them. Nobody's supposed to leave. That's the canine law. You got to stay with the pack. And when you leave, it's a big deal. And they don't say much, they don't do much when you leave, but when you come back, unless they're really peeved, they greet you all over the place. So dogs don't like things to change. They want the pack to be together, and you're part of the pack. They've let you be part of the pack, and they don't want that to change. But we humans are not exactly the same. There are times when we hate change too. We hate something to be disrupted. But we can do it. But we still, unlike the dogs, know that it's going to happen. People will leave. Things will change. And we have at least a bit of a sense that there's hope even then. Now, I think that in all the various stories in the Bible, especially in the Gospels, and the various feast days of the church calendar, each one of them has a little different aspect, but they're really all about the way in which we are Christians all the time. There's always a bit of Lent and expectation and even preparation in our lives as Christians. And there's always, if we can see it, a bit of triumphant celebration. It's all come out right. Christ is risen. There's always times of learning, times of reflecting and remembering. And there's also, always in the Christian life, a bit of this day between the Ascension and Pentecost. We have, if we think of the disciples, and it's true in our own Christian life with Jesus, we have been left. Where did he go? Where did he go? Are we really left? What will happen now? There's an old story about a farmer with several sons who weren't necessarily grown up yet. They were sometimes pretty lazy. Now, I've been around farm people just a teeny bit at one time in my life, and I can remember an old German farmer who somehow, we didn't live out in the country, we lived in town in Minnesota, and there was some work being done, and his sons weren't working really hard, and he just couldn't believe it. He just couldn't stand it. Whoever heard of a son not working very hard? And maybe it was always thus. But here's an old story about a farmer. They didn't seem very hardworking. They seemed to expect things to come. Now, he's going to die sometime. He's going to leave, and he worries. So he tells them, before he dies, one time, I've buried all the gold that you'll ever need in our fields. Some of you already know how this is going to go. But he dies and never tells them what he meant. So they dig and dig and dig for the gold all over the land. They didn't find the gold, but all that digging does get the farm ready for planting, and the harvest is more than adequate, and this goes on for a few years. There's no gold in a box, but they do get to work, and they do dig up the land, and the seeds are planted, and you see the point, you already got it. All the gold you'll ever need was in the field. Now, that little story is about hard work, and it's about depending on your labor for your living and depending on the fields and the nature and the crops. But it also is a little story for us when we feel that Jesus seems to have disappeared and has gone. Because that is an aspect, not just on this Sunday between Ascension and Pentecost. It's only here in this Sunday in order to illuminate something that may happen to us at any time in our own personal Christian walk, but also in the life of the church. Where'd he go? Where's the gold? The Gospels, for all 3 years of our series of lectionary, the Gospels for this Sunday have a curious thing. We listen in while Jesus prays to the Father. You have a little bit of that in some other stories in the Gospels, but this is a long one. It kind of sums up all kinds of things Jesus might say to the Father. So we listen in. It's already, in a sense, they're not with Jesus this moment. I mean, he's not preaching this to them, but they listen in. Somehow they hear it. And what is Jesus praying about to the Father? Us. He's praying about us, the ones he's been given and that he's left in some sense. Like that old farmer, he was so worried about what was going to happen to him. And we listen in on these Sundays to John chapter 17, where he prays to God about us. Jesus is praying to God, and we listen in. Not only does he, of course, say to the Father, we're going to send the Spirit to you, but it also gives us a clue to where Jesus went and where we are. Because it turns out the Christian church figured out by experience that this little moment of Jesus and the Father is where he went and where we are with him. We are with Jesus in his prayer to God. For us to dig in the field. Now, sometimes in the Christian life, we dig like those boys did. We dig there's a pot of gold here somewhere, and we dig and dig. But it doesn't matter if we were mistaken about that. Doesn't matter. Because God's got his gold there for us anyway. So Jesus shows us where he always will be, and we are his prayer to God. So we are there too. So when you think that, and we all do this, like Jesus isn't here, I don't know, remember this gospel that we're given. Maybe Jesus isn't visibly here. Maybe Jesus is with God praying, but he's praying for us, and we're there too. And even if we dig or pray, not quite well, it doesn't matter. We keep on. And Christ, with the Father, brings God's glory to us. Hallelujah, Christ is risen.